Welcome to the Quantum Leap podcast, everyone. And we are thrilled to welcome to the show Brigitte Canales. Brigitte, welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. So good to be here.
It's terrific. We've been talking to a lot of people involved in this episode of Quantum Leap. You are maybe part of Quantum Leap history. This might be one of the most significant episodes that the show has ever done for issues-oriented themes, which the show is famous for. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit about the journey that brought you into the show and how you got the role as Miriam?
Absolutely. Yeah, I got the audition and I remember getting it. And I had actually just had, this is a little bit, a little too TMI, right? But I had just had a peel done on my face. I remember I told my husband, God, this peel, I'd never had a peel before. And I told him, I had this peel and I think I look like a crazy person, but I really think I have to audition for it because I feel like I get this character. I get what she's going through. I get what she's fighting for. And, Eric, I think I'm just going to tape it. And he's like, I don't know about that, baby. You're looking a little rough. And I said, I feel it in my heart. And the thing about the characters that you book sometimes, most of the time when you book something, at least it's happened for me that way, you know it. You know that there's a calling. There's something inside you that tells you this is a fit and this has to be done. And that's what I felt with that role. And I just felt like I understood her passion and what she was fighting for her daughter's freedom, and for justice for her daughter and for her daughter to be able to live a life of equality and a life where she could grow up and not feel afraid of the world and how the world was going to perceive her and whatever she felt like she was. And the journey that my character Miriam was going to go through with Gia, because you're constantly learning from I learned from my nieces. I'm not a mom yet, and I'm constantly learning from my nieces. I'm learning things about myself, about my weaknesses, about my strengths, about things about myself I don't like, that I'm like, oh gosh, that I have that within me. Oh man, I don't like that quality in me. And then going through the process of trying to become better. And so when I finally got the script and I was reading some of the lessons that were there, I thought, wow, this was so perfectly written. And so it was written in a way that it makes you see ugly sides of you and good sides of you and everything in between. And I was grateful for that because I think you don't always get that on TV and you rarely get situations like this. Thankfully, there's a lot more of it happening and a lot more of it being exposed. And so it creates the platform where people can feel like they can be seen and there's a place for them to say, okay, hey, I know exactly what that feels like. And I relate to that. And that's me. That's me in a way. And so I felt like the way Miriam and Gia's relationship ends up playing out, which you guys will see, there's all those lessons and there's all those situations where every parent will be able to relate to it. And there was a lot of soul on set, it was a very emotional set, and there was I had goosebumps all the time and I didn't know why. And that's a powerful thing when you feel that on a set because you're like, wow, it's something beyond.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that aspect of it because we had the good fortune to talk to Shakina, who wrote and directed the episode, and she is just phenomenal. And we had approached this with her a little bit, but I wanted to know from your point of view what the set was like because you were talking about such a relevant topic and not one that you see portrayed often on an hour-long network drama of all places. So was there a back and forth about how you should approach certain themes? And I know it's all there on the page, but there's also a lot of subtext and nuance, especially when you're dealing with there's just so much in the script that you had to convey. So I was just wondering if, did you have any kind of discussions with Shakina and with Josie Lynn about their experiences and some of the nuances that they maybe wanted to get across when you were interacting with them?
Yeah, Shakina used, I'm sure you guys spoke about this, but there were she had two very good friends, one of which she based the character on, and um, and so she was very open about that, and we were able to talk about situations in life that have been very scarring, you know, that have made life a little bit have been those moments in life where you're kind of hit hard and then it kind of shakes you. And so we were able to connect on those that subject matter and those situations, and open up about it and open our hearts. And I knew exactly who Miriam was. I knew, you know, moms can be ferocious. Like a mother, when she's fighting for her child, will do whatever she has to do. And for me, that was what I was doing. I was fighting for my little girl with every inch of me, you know. And if I had to take on the world, I would have, because I knew that that's what she needed. And you know, she told me, my daughter, Gia, told me in the episode, and there were really harsh moments where I was like, wow, this sucks. God, is this what being a mom's gonna be like? Damn. Where she's telling me, you know, you're trying to hide me, you're not letting me be free, and you're not really being a good mom. And I was like, oh my God, you know, to hear those words was really painful, because I could, you know, I have a younger sister, and my sister, and I told this to Shakina, this is how we really connected. My little sister was born with a scar, and she had to have a few surgeries. And her fifth surgery ended up leaving her with a big scar on her face. And so I told Shakina the story about my little sister running from her school, elementary school, to my middle school, and all the little kids were running behind her, and they were like, "Scar face, scar face," and it was so cruel. And I remember my sister running to me and like holding me, and I was like, "Get away from my sister!" Like screaming like a monster. I got crazy. I still remember how I felt. And I told her, this is who Miriam is. I get it. I know who Miriam is. And so obviously Shakina's a great writer. So there's Miriam fighting, then there's Miriam failing, then there's Miriam failing again, then there's Miriam being taught a lesson, then there's Miriam understanding, then there's Miriam fighting again, and then there's Gia rising, right? And everyone finding a place for Gia and saying, "You're just one of us. What are we doing? You know, this is ridiculous." And then finally Gia being able to you know, fly, which is ultimately what a parent wants. And so, you know, this whole process felt like I could really relate to it because of that experience with my sister, because it was so it was that's what it was. It was scarring. It really left its print in my heart and my life. And so Shakina is so open, you know, and she was talking to me about, immediately she's trying to help my sister. And so we really connected on that, and I felt like that was really where I found Gia. Gia to me was really like, I felt like I was just protecting my little sister in a way, and then that gave me wings to be a mother, if that makes any sense. It became very personal for me, you know. So yeah, I mean, there were constantly moments on set where Shakina would just come to us, give us an example, ground us, and then kind of let us be, because the words were great. So when it's written great, it just kind of takes off by itself. You let the words do the work, you know?
Yeah, I was really very surprised, and pleasantly so, at I guess it was like the last act turn, when we find out what you've done as a mom to try to protect Gia,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the fact that she couldn't play because that was just the deal that they made. And
Yeah.
when she runs, and it basically boils down to you being a mom and so supportive, yet you are still in some way having a detrimental effect on her life when she yells, your fear is not my
Oh,
responsibility. That sent chills through my spine. I mean, that was a great scene on both of you, and you guys played it. I was so surprised, because you think that you like you said, you're the mom, you're protecting, you're there, and that is your sole intent, is to protect this child. And it turns out that, wait a minute, maybe you have something to learn too,
lessons.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I know we're talking a lot about specifics in the episode. Can you tell us just generally about? I mean, how cool is it to be on the set of Quantum
Oh
Leap?
my God.
You know, like
It's
what's it like to work with Ray? And did you get to interact with any of the other main cast members?
Yeah, my scenes were mainly with Ray, so it was basically he plays my husband in a way, so that's the person
Hmm.
I spent the most time with. But I got to see everyone a little bit for the most part, and everyone was just so kind and fun, and it was a really easygoing set, and there was a really light energy, which is always awesome when you're on set and things feel light and happy and joyful, and everyone feels grateful. That's one of the best things about work, when it doesn't ever feel like work, if that makes any sense. So that was awesome, and the Universal lot is so cool. I mean, they have all these little. I don't know if you guys have talked about other episodes, but there was one where they had to put all this sand out, and it was like kind of like a western, and we drove right by it, and all the houses are so gorgeous, and they're empty but they're cool. you know so that was really really neat to have that experience, because I'd never worked for the Universal Studios. um I'd worked for other studios, but not that one, so that was a real treat. But more than anything, the people, that's what really it's all about, and it's a really tight-knit family. And the first season of a show is always, people are kind of getting to know each other still. So, it's still kind of like, oh, feeling each other out. But in this set, it really felt like everyone already got through that and was close already. So it was a real gift to be part of that set and that team.
What were the days like when you were filming in the high school for the basketball scenes and you were cheering on Gia, your daughter?
They were awesome. We did 3 days out there, and there were kids in actual school that were there. So they'd all be like, what are you guys, doing? Peeking their heads in. But there was a lot of support, and Shakina brought out a beautiful part of the community, and she really made everyone feel so seen and special. And I remember just the smiles all around me, and people so excited to be there, and just the feeling. I can't explain it. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but it's that like, it's a frequency, right, where you feel like, wow, there's just something around, there's so much love right now. And it's like that feeling in your body, you know what I'm talking about, where you kind of get those little goosebumps on your body, and then you see the joy. And so you're just looking around you, and you're like, wow, people are happy, people are very grateful right now. And that's what it was like. That's really what it was like. So nobody was tired, nobody was complaining. Everyone was just happy.
Yeah, we had complimented Shakina because, in our estimation, our humble estimation, uh, this episode of Quantum Leap shares a lot of the same feeling of the classic series. And I'm just wondering, how familiar, or how are you familiar at all with the original Quantum Leap? Were you a fan of the show way back when?
I've never even seen one episode. Forgive me. I hadn't. For me, it was just really, what drew me was the writing. I loved the writing. When I read for it, I thought, this is great writing. Sometimes some series, when you read the writing, you're like, okay, all right, I get it. They need me to hit the speed, and okay, we know what we got to do here. But this writing was, it was just beautiful. So it was easy to go for the ride. And what I mean by that is, the words, when they're written in a very specific way, they just take you, and you don't have to practice. You don't have to, I'm going to do this here. You just kind of go, and whatever surfaces, but it works because it's truthful.
This episode has to do with a lot of trans issues, and you were working with a lot of trans actors. And did you in any way learn more about the trans community than you had known before working with everyone?
I did. I felt like I was a lot more exposed, and I loved learning, and I loved seeing. I don't. I'm also not like, I'm not Generation Z, so I don't have. It's not. I'm a millennial, so I didn't grow up with as much of that, and so I didn't know a lot about specific terms, the specific things that I feel like I should know about. That now I feel much more comfortable, and and it just feels like second nature now. You know, it's not like I don't think about it as much, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. When you're not exposed, it's a new thing. But I feel like that's what's good about this, that we're all gonna learn more. And I love that Shakina used this relationship with mother-daughter to really put that out there, because it's what really happens, right? And so I really feel like with Miriam, I feel like Miriam could be one of my best friends. It could be my my sister with her daughter. It could be anyone. You know, I feel like Miriam feels so real, like such a. I remember when I put on my outfit and I was like, "Whoa, that outfit!" And then I'm like, "This is all the moms out there that are a little bit more conservative than I am, and a little bit, they don't have as much of the exposure that I do, that are going to learn from this, you know, that are really going to feel like, wow, I see myself in Miriam, and I'm a bit inspired, because look how she's fighting for her child, and look at the mistakes she's made, and look at what she's going through, and all her inner battle, and the failures as a mother, and the wins as a mom, and just the whole journey." So, you know, I think it's a very special episode, and I can't wait to see it on Monday.
Mm. Well, I got to say, I have to imagine that going to the Universal lot might be a little bit different than I think that you guys film in the woods in August in Georgia on location.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe
For
they
for
do. Maybe they.
oh no, I'm talking about for your stint on Fear the Walking Dead.
Oh, for Beetlejuice.
I
Yes.
I'm not sure where do they film.
So, Fear the Walking Dead actually filmed in Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay. All right. But I mean, it just everything's so grimy and hot, and
Oh,
it's just like,
or
yeah.
cold. So cold
I mean,
sometimes. One time
oh yeah.
it was like 20 degrees, and it was supposed to be hot, and we were
Hmm.
all freezing. We couldn't, everyone was like, "Oh, can you guys just, your faces relax a little bit?" We're like, we just can't, because we're shivering. So we're all like,
Mm.
you know, trying to contain ourselves. Yeah, it's a very different experience, but you know, ultimately it's about the love, and what moves actors for the most part. I mean, I can't speak for all of us, but it's the heart, you know, when you feel something deep in your heart, that's what makes you say, "Oh, I want to be a part of that." So, and I felt like that's how I felt when I read this.
Hmm. I would like to maybe, because that is such a cultural touchstone now, like Quantum Leap, The Walking Dead
Yeah.
franchise, yet another, just a genre juggernaut, you know. But it's such a different show in the sense that so much gore, so much fun. Can you talk a little bit about how, because from what I understand, you had kind of a gory demise on the show.
Yeah,
My dad.
you could say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you guys like prep for scenes like that? And I know that they have so much extras dressed as zombies and things. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, you don't say the Z word on that show. But I'd like to, if you have any tales from that set, because it just seems to be such an interesting kind of shoot. It's such a unique kind of show.
Yeah, you know, Fear the Walking Dead, it was my first recurring role ever, and I really have Mikey to thank for that, who's one of the, like, he directs a lot of the episodes, and one of the executive producers, and he gave me my first shot at you know, a recurring role on a show, and I'm forever grateful. And it was probably one of the best experiences of my life to date, because I learned so much, because it was my first time on a set like that. And they work a lot more. They almost work like a film more than they do a show, because it's very cinematic. And so it's really a dance. Everything's always a dance on any set that you're on, but sometimes it's a little bit more formal. Whereas with Fear the Walking Dead, there was a lot of exploration, you know, and they give you the opportunity and freedom to try a lot of things out. And it was a survivalist show, you know, so it was all about life and death ultimately. So, you have to find a way to survive. And I don't know if you guys saw the episode where I have to kill myself in order for my child to be able to survive. But that was probably the most technical of all the episodes. And it was, what was hard was landing the fake knife in a way that it looks like I'm actually stabbing myself. And I had to hit a specific spot. Oh no. Well, it was a fake knife, but we had to actually hit a spot to rip it. And I had 2 takes because we were losing light. And so I had to hit it in a specific spot, rip my stomach so my guts could come out. And if I didn't hit the right spot, the guts wouldn't come out and it wouldn't stain all my clothes. And, and it was just that was the most technical part of it all. And the physical demand that it had, whereas I had to I was kind of trying to walk, but I was stumbling because my leg had gotten all jammed up, and then dragging my leg
from changing the tire.
Yeah, it was exhausting. God, I came home that night and I slept like a baby. I mean, I was so tired. One time we had a really long day. I think it was it must have been more than 16 hours. We all were zombies. We were looking at each other like, oh my God, what a day. But it was such a different set, and what takes a lot of time are the special effects, because all the scars or anything that requires you to become a zombie, it takes hours of makeup. So that's also, you have to sit and wait and let the people do their jobs. So it's every show has a different, not energy necessarily to it, but different challenges. And so you adjust accordingly, but that was an incredible experience for me. It was also my first real show. So you can imagine, I was like, wow, everywhere I looked, I couldn't believe I was in zombie world. And there were zombies sitting all over. You look and you're on break and there's a zombie over here behind me, taking a break over there, having a bottle of water. So that's really cool too.
So are you saying the part where you eviscerated yourself, was that a practical effect? There was actually, did they, or was
no, we
you had to hit it the right way for the CGI?
Yeah, we practiced all that so it would hit in the right place.
But then they put the guts in afterwards, or did they have you set up with a packet of guts that are going to spill out?
They had it with a packet of guts that were going to spill out. Yeah.
How freaky was that?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, but it was that's what I mean. It was technical because I had to hit the right spot so then it would rip and it would all come out.
Oh, that's crazy. I always thought that they, we'll do that in post.
No.
I didn't know that, a lot of practical effects, especially because, the zombies on that show are often missing parts of their faces. And, it's a very realistic. They all look like these weathered husks.
Yeah. Eventually my guts did get dehydrated and those were put on, when I'm going through the sand, it looks like sand dunes. And I'm just trying to get the dogs dragging me to Rufus is dragging me to Morgan. When we got to that part, then those were the old guts, so all dried up and everything. But that wasn't even post. That was all real. It was all effects on set. Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. It's funny. Yeah, it's that's now the exception and not the norm, but it's so old school. Mm-hmm. So that's why I was a little surprised.
Yeah,
makes it better.
It's way better. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, right. All that good old-fashioned blood and guts.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you're Gia's mom, and you seem younger than Miriam. Was that any problem when getting the role of actually playing a character? I think older than yourself, because you look younger than a person that would have a teenage daughter like that.
Yeah, I just felt like I dressed a little bit older. I felt like I had to look a little bit older, so I just went through my wardrobe and put my hair up in a clip and didn't put any makeup on and just kind of wore my fatigue on. I had my fatigue definitely present. I thought, oh, this woman is exhausted. And just the whole situation, I can only imagine what fighting for a child, how hard it has to be when the world feels like it's against you, and how it must be hard on your soul. So hopefully for moms now, it's not as challenging. That's my hope. We can only hope that people become more conscious and it's easier, you know.
Mm.
During the shoot, did you and Josie Lynn form like a maternal and like a daughter relationship at all?
Yeah, I felt like we had a definitely like a friendship, and I felt like you know, immediately you see someone. I don't know how to explain it, but whenever you get a character, you start to kind of see through that character's eyes. So it was really cute because she was having so much fun with her friends, playing basketball and trying things out, and she was practicing so hard, and I kept looking at her like, gosh, so cute how she's so committed, you know. And I could see pieces of me in her, even though she's not my daughter in real life, but I could see, you know, we see reflections of ourselves in people, anyone, and I could really see that her commitment a lot. I remember being up in the bleachers and thinking, I see her drive, you know, and she's committed to becoming the best she can be. And I felt like that resonated so much with me and how I am. And that was one of those moments of reflection where I'm like, look at her. She's busting her little butt. She's so cute, you know? And I had that moment. I'm like, wow, this is what it's going to be like, you know, to see my kid trying and trying and trying. Cause she was shooting those hoops. She wouldn't stop. She wanted to get it right. So that was one of my favorite moments. And yeah, you know, we were talking, and then I did feel like a mom because she'd come over, she'd say something to me, and then she'd be like, okay, cool, I'll talk to you in a little. And then she'd go off with the friends, and I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, I guess this is what it's like for real. You know, it's like they care about you, but they want to go hang out with their friends.
Yeah.
It's what happens, yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll be here. You let me know. All right, cutie. And then she'd leave. So that was cute.
So you had a good experience, it sounds like, overall.
Oh yeah, I had a great time. I mean, you know, obviously I'd love to be back with them, but that's it. It's that one moment and fragment in time. So but yeah, they were great. Everyone was awesome.
It must be just a great feeling to be what I believe will become an iconic episode of network television. You know, it definitely breaks barriers, and it's going to be a milestone. So, did you have any worry going into it, like that it was going to be maybe scrutinized more than other episodes of TV, or appreciated more than other episodes of TV?
About scrutinized? No, I didn't care. I was like, this is
Okay,
about,
cool.
yeah, this is about a human life, and I have no worries. And you know, I have a lot of faith, and I just always feel like you know, I don't think God would ever want anyone to be treated as less than a person. And so I don't know, for me, it wasn't even, I didn't think about it twice. I just said, this is about love, and love is bigger than anything. And so let's do it.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it really comes through in the episode, especially the note that it ends on is not just love, but just this overwhelming joy. And I think that all the elements came together, and you were a huge part of that. So thank you for contributing to the success, because like I said, this one really shared the DNA and had a lot of the feel of the classic series. And, you know, longtime Quantum Leap fans, it's almost like coming home.
Oh, wow.
Because it's so evocative of the show that we all love. I mean, everybody listening to this podcast is mostly, you know, diehard fans from 30 years ago. So to be back on this journey and to have a whole different cast doing it, it's nice to know that we can still get that old feeling.
Oh, that's,
you know?
wonderful.
And
thank you.
So, yeah. So it was kind of a circuitous route to you to be acting, though. I was looking a little bit at your bio, and you started out as VJ.
Yeah. So I started off in musical theater. That was kind of my passion at the beginning. And so I got a little bit into acting after that. And then right after high school, there was an open audition for MTV. They were going to start a bilingual network, and I went. And I just said, hey, I feel like I would host all the shows at my school. I was always the MC at my school. So I said, why not? Let's give it a go. So I went in, I did my thing, and the guy's like, you need an agent, and I have a friend. And I was like, okay, sure, let's meet your friend. And I met his friend. It turned out to be an agent in William Morris, which is a really big agency. And then that they kind of started fine-tuning me, and they were like, okay, so you need to do this, you need to do that. I got work. I started working for Billboard. I started doing a lot of hosting. And deep down, I always wanted to act. I felt like it was what I really should do. So I was like, I don't know how to leave hosting and focus more on acting, but I have to transition somehow. And then I started booking a lot of voiceover stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm getting a good, my career is really happening in the voiceover world. And so I came out to LA. I met a bunch of people from a few ad agencies that my agent knew. I was like, I think LA is a place for me. I got to go. And I convinced my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time. He wanted to go to New York, but we ended up going to LA. And I was like, you got to give me some time. I think I can do it. And then sure enough, opportunities started happening, doors started opening, and I was able to break through into the acting world. And it's just been go ever since. Thank God. So it's been awesome.
Are you still pursuing voice acting work? I saw that you had some recent work with the Star Wars franchise as well.
Yeah, I still do voiceover work. I also started doing motion capture work. I was just part of a really great game called Dead Space, which was a remake of a classic. And that was all motion capture. So I got to wear, the outfit.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I loved it because that's a lot of imagination. So, and that's kind of one of my favorite things about acting, imaginary circumstances. So, that's been really rewarding, and I hope to do a lot more of that and continue my my VO career because I do love it. I mean, acting in a booth or acting with the mocap gear, it's all so different. It's all different worlds, but it's all the same thing. It's acting. So. And it's not even acting. It's just being under these imaginary circumstances as truthfully as you can be, ultimately.
I find that fascinating because I don't know much about video games. I've never been a video game guy, but so from what I'm inferring from what you're saying is that you put on the mocap gear and you act the character. So it's your voice and you basically do they use that to animate the characters so that it's all you. Really.
It's all you. So even if the character looks nothing like you, they're still going to use all your facial expressions and everything. So before you even do the motion capture work, they have you go into a seat in like this circular motion capture, I guess, stall. And then you go in there or booth, and you go in there and there's 120 tiny cameras with lights. And so you sit there for about 3 hours and you have to make different expressions, and they take pictures of everything, hundreds of pictures at the same time. So they can capture every angle of your face, and then they can capture like just me opening my eyes like that and then relaxing and then relaxing. So then when they animate the character, it can have all your actual expressions. It's fascinating.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a long process, but it's worth it when you see it play out.
It's just I'm playing a video game later. I see, that female orc over there. That looks like Brigitte. It's like I don't know how, but it's uncanny.
Oh my god. Yeah,
but,
right.
I have to think that it's probably like a really neat time because I have to think that acting in a booth for VO work is completely different from doing the mocap stuff, which is completely different from doing the series stuff. So it's like, how do you juggle it all? It's kind of nuts.
I see it all as a gift, and I'm always like, wow, I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe this is what I get to do. This is incredible, and I'm so grateful. And I just see it all as gifts that I get. And I'm like, wow, thank you. Thank you, God, thank you. And I just go in there and I give it my best. It is different. Being on set, they give you get a lot. You get you get actual people at the cafe, or, you know, the kids at the basketball game. On a motion capture project, I would have seen them, and then maybe we would have had the ball, but there would be no court. There wouldn't be anything really except the main characters right there. So it would have probably been, if it would have been a motion capture project, it would have been Gia, the maybe 3-4 girls, whoever had dialogue playing, and then Ray, because he's the coach, and then probably for my footage, it would have just been me with the camera. You know, it would have been shot so different. And the basketball would have probably had sensors on it, so when they throw it, they actually can get the basketball going on the floor. It would have been just, it's all so different. You know, you just start learning how to navigate each ocean.
Fascinating.
Did you come up with a backstory for Miriam? Like, what did she do for a living? Because I don't know if they mentioned that. They were just like, you got to get back to your
I'm a
shift and
nurse.
stuff.
I'm a nurse in
Okay.
in my role. Yeah, and I had thought of that too. I thought for sure I had that kind of job. Either I was an assistant and I helped, or I was a nurse, or something along those lines is what I thought. I just knew I was exhausted and that I didn't have, like, my husband was letting me down left and right, and I was just like, what are you doing right now? You know, you're making things so challenging for us. And this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. And Ray's so great, you know. Ray, like, he has these little, like, he has these like mischievous eyes, but they're also so innocent. And he knows how to play them up, you know. So I'm always like, listen, you're making things hard for us, okay? But yeah, I knew that Miriam she was definitely, you know, I took pieces of my mom as well, her commitment to my sister and I, and she's a wonderful mother. So I just tried to embody a lot of her in my work.
Awesome. Well, I mean, it comes across. You're a believable mom in the episode.
Thank you.
So whatever you did, it worked.
Yeah. You could really feel the love that Miriam had for Gia.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
And the need to protect her. Yeah.
Thank you. I
really well done.
Thanks.
Excellent episode, and you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Yeah, and speaking of which, are there any aspects of the episode that you want to talk about that we haven't covered yet? Any important things that you think need to be discussed, or just any messages for the leapers who are listening?
I think I would just like to say that, you know, love, I think I said the quote earlier, I really do believe that love is bigger than anything in its way. And that quote's very personal to me, because when I went through a challenging time with my husband, when he was going through something difficult, I really learned that. And so it's a big thing for me that love can move mountains. Love can give you a drive unlike anything you've ever seen or experienced in your entire life, and it'll teach you great lessons, you know. But ultimately love is what moves us and what gives us purpose. So whenever in doubt, just what would you do if you were in love, you know, in the state of love.
I think that's a wonderful sentiment to end on. Thank you so much, Brigitte, for joining us on the Quantum Leap podcast.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I send you big hugs.